Okay, I just practiced doing this whole thing about the 3 stages. Forgot to hit the recording button. So I'm going to give you a slightly even faster version of it because it was a little longer. We have 3 stages. I need a drink of water. Perrier, La France. Okay. The 3 stages of intercultural sensitivity is a way of dealing in a neutral way with the issue of calling people names, trying to lecture people, trying to tell people, well, you're a racist, or tell others that you need to stand up for yourselves. These guys are trying to take over your culture. And you end up with a lot of anger, okay? If I had to call this, I'd call it kind of an anti-Trump way of addressing the world. Go NFL. Okay. All right. Here's the issue. The first stage is denial of difference. And this stage is when, and I've got it on here, cognitive, visual, affective. Affective is how you feel about it. Cognitive, what people think in this stage. Behavior, how they act. And then what's the exercise of power, and what do people say, and what needs to be done. The most important thing here is what needs to be done. The example I give is homeless people, and I've given plenty here. It could be refugees, immigrants. When I'm in a nursing home 15 years from now, and you guys are running around saying, I wonder whatever happened to Dr. Tracy, is going to be denial of difference. I'll be sitting in there with my oatmeal and prunes. And will you visit me? Well, probably not. But, and I take it that it'll only be because you're just really busy and you don't know where I am. But you probably won't be looking for me either, okay? Now, if my kids were doing that, then I'd have problems. I said, where is Dad anyhow? His check bounced. The first stage, people ignore the minority or whatever the group we're talking about. I say the homeless because people step over them, step around them. They don't, I'm in the same boat. We got a guy over in Lexington, big old guy, talks to himself, and I just don't feel like engaging with him. It's not like I feel like he could probably flatten me or something. Maybe I could flatten him. I don't know. But I don't know if he's well or something. Migrants, people that work in very harsh jobs and no one's looking after them, no government regulators out there making sure they have a bathroom in the field, or as I found death of my father, the elderly, that people do not care much about regulating nursing homes. And if you remember those people in Florida sitting in water, and the others where 8 people died and the air conditioning failed. If they had not been elder, if they'd been some other group of people, maybe they would have lived. Enough said there. That's very sad. Refugees, the same deal. People don't think about refugees. Some people make money claiming they're going to give money to refugees, and that's why I get tired of people saying, oh, do you want to give money for this? And I'm thinking, sure, I can flex you $5. I don't know if it'll ever get to them or what percentage is. I have no idea. It's very easy for somebody to try to get you to give money. Whether the money does any good, I get no feeling out of it, Anyhow, so we got the affect of the feeling about it. People are not thinking about them, and they're not feeling about them. There's just not much there. And there's not much desire to reach out. So that's an issue. What happens in exercise of power? I chose an unusual example of migrant workers, not migrant, but exploited textile workers from East Europe in New York in the very early part of the 20th century, late 19th century. They worked in sweatshops. We still have those, by the way. You still have slavery, by the way, in this country and in other countries. Examples. There was a place in Scotland, people were working like slaves in a house before they discovered they were there. People were not asking any questions. They just said, well, there must be some people living there. And it was very strange, but no one bothered to ask questions. Well, in the garment district, it was controlled by the mob. And it wasn't the Italian mob, but I think it was other groups. It could be Hungarians, Germans, Poles, whoever. It can be your own group cheating you. No, there's nothing noble about a Czech person helping other Czech people. They may be cheating them out of money, you know. I've seen examples of that with different minority groups, that someone claims to be the leader and helping my people, and all the time they're making money off of their people. You may have read this in the history books. There was a fire in a women's garment factory, I think in Boston. I think it was in Boston or New Jersey in about 1910 or 1911 or 1908. And about 60 or 80 women were locked in this place, and they burned alive in there. And they were all immigrant women, and they were women. So no one was asking any questions, and a terrible number of people died. And they were locked in. They couldn't get out. This happens in Bangladesh now for the clothes that we get. That people and children are kept virtually slaves or almost as bad as slaves. And no one asks any questions. That's why people wonder, you know, does Michael Jordan or anybody's fancy shoes, are they made by people to get a fair wage, or are they cheated? You know, I mean, you could have as many clothes made by slaves as the Romans did. It's not a joke. What needs to be done? First of all, you have to be very curious. As a teacher, you have to pay attention to parts of your community and may not have kids in school. And certainly if they have kids in school, you need to be knowledgeable about the parents. You may discover things, situations. They need help. A lot of schools have social workers now in the schools, not unusual. Focus on finding beauty in their culture, embrace their culture, make a friend with someone from that culture. Once you get a friend, then you'll start finding out information about the culture. Not always bad stuff, but good stuff too. But in this stage, which is you're basically a nothing. In that culture, it's quite damaging. Second stage, the siege mentality. I used to have Trump's name on it, but then he got elected, so I decided not to make it political. Okay. This stage is I call the pronoun stage. Us and them. You people need to work harder. You people need to come into country legally. You people need to pick up your trash. You people need to get off welfare. You people, I call it the you people stage. I can tell you right now, when you talk to a minority and you use the term you people, there's going to be a fight, because you people is practically a racist term, the way it's been used in the past. So the siege mentality, we're afraid of these people, their language, they're going to take our jobs. They're going to take over our country. They're going to mess up our music. They're going to get us to bring soccer into the football and challenge the football program. And how can you have soccer and football even in different seasons? Because soccer is a foreign, you know, it's not a manly sport. You know, football's, you know, we're going to run into each other. And I thought, what if Australians came in and we had to play Australian rules rugby or Australian rules football? No helmets. We'll just run into each other, and the man in the raincoat will make the calls. You can always look up Australian rules football if you want to see it's rugby. It's basically you're just continually running with the ball, flipping it, and beating the crap out of each other. So the affective, the emotional is all negative. Oh my God, they may date my daughter, or they may move in next door. What am I going to do? Fear. They're all in gangs. They're criminals. They're dangerous, you know. And that's what I call the siege mentality. People often feel very comfortable saying the most racist things you could ever imagine. I won't say who would say that. I don't even know who would do that. Okay. I put in a video here of the immigrant movement and that amnesty. If you haven't noticed an immigration debate in this country, you're Rip Van Winkle. You've been asleep for 20, 30 years. And not even in this country, but upper New York, near Cooperstown. What is the exercise of power in this stage? And this is really important. With the exercise of power in the first stage, it was people being manipulated by either members of their own group working with someone who had money from the dominant culture, or they basically were just kind of out there. No one was helping them. They were just barely surviving. The exercise of power here is that literally the dominant culture sends out police and troops and the authorities to stop the other group. This could be everything from arresting people in immigration raids to, now I'm not saying you can't enforce the law, because that's not an illegal use of power, okay? So if an immigration agent arrests somebody who's violating immigration law, they are obeying the law, okay? But you can see the examples I give here when people went beyond enforcing the law and then started beating civil rights protesters. The other example I add here, and I do have a video here of an elderly lady talking about the civil rights Sunday, Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama in 1965. That was in the U2 song, Sunday, Bloody Sunday, if you ever listen to U2. You know, I'd sing, but I don't want you to turn this off. Okay. The other one I found, and it was more of a white on white, because I want to get away from race, because this isn't about race. Everything I'm saying right now is not about race. It happens that in our country it is, but in other countries it could be religions. If we were in Ireland, it would be Protestant and Catholic. People would look just the same. You couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't even see culturally a difference, or not much. But there was a group of men that wanted to go and get their bonuses because they served in World War I. 1932, because of the Depression, that people were desperate. They had no money, nothing. I mean, we're not talking they had a hard way to go. We're talking there was nothing. They literally ate whatever they could find. Either stole bread, or there was no jobs to be had. It was catastrophic. I think 25% unemployment, and this is with people that used to working on farms and stuff, and the farms are gone. So the bonus army, a group of men, they call themselves a bonus army, and their families got tents, and they pitched tents, and they were in Washington, D.C., and they told Herbert Hoover, we need to get our bonus from World War I. You offered some kind of a bonus, even if it's $300, it'll keep us from starving to death. Instead of getting it, the Congress then rebelled, and the president, Hoover, ordered the military under Douglas MacArthur, a supposed great general, which he's not. I'll argue that all day. Ordered him to crush it. And so you had military soldiers attacking military veterans. You can imagine doing that. Imagine if somebody told the National Guard to go out and attack the VFW members. I can't even imagine that now. I can't imagine you obey an order to attack another soldier. Uh, talk about, that's why Hoover wasn't well liked. You do that kind of stuff. This man was hated. Okay, at this stage, people say ban all Muslims from the country. I never heard that one before. Build a wall. A lot of people crossing the border are drug dealers. And you can read some things here. And ironically, these were said before the president was president. So this isn't just something from him. First, fear is whipped up by anxiety-ridden people. This is, people get crazy. They get worried and they get scared and they think, oh my God, what will we do? Realize that fears about cultural differences are often part of the social change. I think it's essential that you have the view that the vast majority of people are not racist. And so you have to begin thinking in a neutral way, not because you're neutral, you'll have your beliefs, but when you work with people, you have to believe that both sides, or all of them, maybe except for Nazis or people that are just devout extremists of one type or another, that they will listen and participate in, have given opportunities to build bridges. It may not be easy. In Georgia, they had, over many years, starting in the 60s, they had a monthly lunch of African-American and white businessmen. And they did this monthly lunch every month since 1960s, I think 65 or something, to build trust between the communities. And it's been very successful. It hasn't solved everything, you know. You still have things like Black Lives Matter, and conflict. And but you work at it. When you're at this stage, you try to find everything you have in common with between the two groups. That's really the key. What is it we can either create a common experience, something they share and believe in. Maybe it's quilting. Maybe both sides like quilting. Maybe both sides like, you know, and when I say both sides, you're going to be constantly thinking about America right now, but I'm not talking about America right now. I'm talking about any situation anywhere. Different Hindu groups in India that may be in conflict with each other, you know, much less with Muslims, but some of these are going to be too much to overcome. I mean, you have to operate within your own culture. You can't join the army or become some kind of a guru of human relationships and say, I'm going to go over there and put an end to the 800-year-old conflict between Catholics and Protestants in Ireland. You know, don't get too big an ego. You know, work within your context. Third stage, minimization of difference. I call this the unfortunate belief that we are all the same. People get into this thing thinking we're all alike. We just happen to grow up in different places, speak different languages, have different views of God or not, and we have different ideologies and we hate different people, but we're really basically the same. No, we're not basically the same. We are different, but we have common things. There's no extremes. In the stage that is presented on the siege, everything, all you do is look at trouble, conflicts. In this stage, you look at another group and say, they can be just like us. That's the danger. No, they can't be just like us. And the example I have here is Native Americans. And you see, they literally thought that you could take a Native American and say, well, you know, their skin color will be different, but they'll be a white man. That was their view. They could do that. And how did they do that? They took the kids away from their families on the reservation, wherever they were, cut their hair, took away their clothes, demanded they not speak their native language, demanded they learn English, demanded they learn to be educated little, whatever, pioneer kids, and worship Christianity and give up any Indian religion, Native American religion. In other words, we want to kill everything Indian in you and replace it with us. That's what it is. That's why missionary situations and stuff like they're very dangerous. I'm very hesitant with those. So you have to think about how that's going to work. The affective here is like, I think people think it's going to be like one of those old Pepsi commercials or Coke. I want to give the world a Coke and wish and sing in joy or something. I don't know. It was just a bunch of people singing. It was supposed to be, oh, the world's going to have a world hug. Gag. Well, anyhow, the fact is that developing relationships between cultures is complicated. If you go over there that you're going to give them what you have and that's going to be better for them than what they have, you're immediately getting in trouble with that, in my opinion. Because you may go over there and find out maybe they're better than you. Maybe they have a lot of things better than you. Maybe you go over there and find out spiritually they're more advanced than you are. What are you going to say then? That would be a real kick in the head. Somebody goes over there, converts somebody, and they come back and say, oh, welcome, I've changed my name, or something. I'm in a different religion now. Then you're going to say, oh, no, it's Satan. But the issue here is that you have to take differences very seriously, but you don't want to be afraid of differences. What people say at this stage and what they need to do is, and I put things on here, have students explore their own culture for inconsistencies and varieties of customs, marriage ceremonies, family reunions, sports, things that people do in your community. Take advantage of opportunities to have speakers and other students to talk about their culture or their parents. Have students practice listening without jumping to conclusions. Use literature from other cultures, ancient myths, how they make bread in Mexico or in the Middle East. It's different, The importance of corn in Mexican culture. Why it's such an you could look at it, it's kind of a multiple intelligence approach, but if you want to look at it, I don't really like multiple intelligence, but if you look it up, you can look it up. But you could explore different aspects of culture. One would be the nutritional ways that people get their calories in a different country. You notice now a lot of health foods, people are eating different foods from different countries. They're not eating good old American, I want some roast beef and a pork chop and, a little banana bread. That's the exotic stuff. And some beans and mashed potatoes with gravy. You find that doesn't go too well, or pancakes and chicken or something, That was always weird. Waffles and chicken. I don't get that. I like them both, but that's just not right. Sorry. The example I give you on the last one is the children with the boarding school. So that's basically those three things. And I'm going to give you a blackboard assignment where you're going to talk about these. And I want you to really think about this. That's why I wanted to focus on this reading for this week. I want to get away from the book because I don't want to jam things in on you, because this is kind of a real central point of this course. We're not just here just to explore other cultures and go yippee and we'll have a certain holiday for this or that, or it's multicultural is very complicated. Last week you saw the one on Out of the Past. You saw issues of same-sex parents, or relationships, and then how women are treated. So you can't define culture as just some kind of a country-to-country thing, or region to region. Okay, well, probably put that 9500 Liberty video on later this week, and it's going to be used in the context of this, but not for this week's assignment. But I want you to watch it because it's pretty rough, and you'll enjoy it. All right, now I'm going to try this and see if I actually recorded it.